Almost have a full house here. So I'm just gonna get started here and stop my screen share and get going. I'm very excited to hold this. So, okay, I'd like to start by first thanking the panelists for joining us this evening or this afternoon or this morning, wherever you're located in the world. This is a really important topic and conversation, so I know it will not be short. I know we have a lot to cover, so I'm just going to give a little bit of a brief intro to who I am, why JSM for Artists is holding this webinar series, and go around the Zoom room here and introduce everybody. And then I'm just going to get right into a heavy Q&A. I wanted to just give you some housekeeping rules. You can use chat. Please feel free to put your contact info or anything you'd like us to take a look at, any information there. Please use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen to ask questions. We will be answering questions in the last 15 minutes of this webinar, so it's very important for you to understand. So please use the Q&A for that, and otherwise, enjoy the webinar. So my name is Jasmine Sandler. I'm the CEO and host of JSM for Artists. I'm also a musician myself, so I have a deep passion in supporting artists, both musicians and other artists. I do a lot actually in educating and training artists of all types in how to really look at their art as a business. And that's kind of what I'm all about. And for JSM for Artists, you know, with my clients, a lot of times I hear this need for more and more education. And so I just decided to start to hold this webinar series. Just recently, we had a webinar last time that was very well attended. Alexandra Mayo, who's on today, was on that webinar, and that was all about building your brand online, because my agency is a branding and marketing agency, and how you protect it. And in the world where I'm sure a lot of you attendees would agree that it's very DIY, very indie, you know, you more and more need to kind of own your art, own your copyrights, and understand what it's all about. And there's a lot behind that we covered that is available on the YouTube channel. It's all over the place. That was a very important webinar. And the comments that I got after that was, hey, you know, we'd like to hear something on education. So I actually started reaching out to these wonderful panelists that are on. These folks that are on are very experienced people, very successful people in the field. I'm blessed to have them on today. And I wanted to use this time to have them talk about from an online music education standpoint, how things are going in an age of COVID, in an age of, which Rachel will talk about today from you know, career transition. People are deciding they want to go into the music field, or they're really becoming serious. My company, I always say we only deal with serious people because it takes work, takes effort, and it takes knowledge, and knowledge is power. So again, I'm Jasmine Sandler. My company is JSM for Artists. I want to move right around the room here and quickly introduce who is on our panel. So I'm just going to start with Rachel, because she is, I don't know how your screen is laid out, but she's right to my left here. And I am a University of Miami MBA alma mater, and very proud of being a Hurricane. So when I reached out to Rachel, who I don't know how many of you know about University of Miami's Frost School of Music, but is one of the top music schools in the country. And I was blessed to have Rachel join us today from the Frost School of Music, particularly the online division. So do you want to say hello, Rachel?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me today. I'm the director of Frost Online at University of Miami, and we offer graduate degrees online, graduate certificates, and some non-credit course options. I look forward to talking to you throughout this webinar.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Oh, Rachel just had a baby. She's being so modest over there. And she's on the webinar after just having a baby, what, in the last couple of days?
Yeah, on Friday.
So she's a trooper. We all should say congratulations. Okay, so I'm going to move to Alexandra. Alexandra Mayo with the Morris Music Law. I reached out to Alex, I don't know when this was, in 2021. I saw what they were doing as an entertainment law firm to really help emerging artists. And I don't see this from a lot of law firms, so I actually flew out to Los Angeles and we had lunch together, and I said, hey, we need to educate musicians. So here we are. So Alex, do you want to say hi and give a little bit about what you do there?
Yes. Hello. Nice to see you again, Jasmine, and congrats, Rachel. That's amazing. Like Jasmine said, I am an associate attorney with Morris Music Law. We actually have two companies, Morse Music Law, which is kind of like a traditional law firm, but then we also have a sister company, Music Law Pro, which is still us, but slightly different structure to offer flat rate and subscription-based services to make legal a little bit more affordable for starting musicians. So that was something that Jasmine and I had definitely bonded over in the past as well. But pretty much anything music and entertainment legal, we just want to be on the team and be able to assist. So we offer a super broad range of services. It can be on as general counsel or just for like one specific thing like contract review. But whether it's something like this, where we're helping get set up with online courses and all the background with that, contract drafting, reviewing negotiations, trademarks, copyrights, licensing, super broad scope of services. So happy to be here to be able to assist and hopefully make everyone's careers a little bit more on that professional level and protected.
Yeah, and Alex really gave some great information in the last webinar, so I think you should all check it out. From a musician to a musician. I'm going to move on to actually Lacey Harris, the director of industry programs, right, at the Musicians Institute, a school that I am very excited to be teaching at soon. And they really know what it's about to develop an artist. So Lacey, you want to say hello and give a little bit about Musicians Institute?
You betcha. Also just in awe of Rachel having a baby and doing a panel 2 days later. You impress me and inspire. Like Jasmine said, I'm the director of industry programs at the Musicians Institute here in Hollywood. It's a music school that started back in the late 1970s as a guitar institute and basically snowballed into all the other performance instruments as well as vocal, and then later on developed our industry programs, which house areas of study like audio engineering, music business, independent artist program, and its various different forms that we use here as certificate programs as well as combined emphases. We have an array of different degrees. Our performance school does composition, bachelor degrees, and composition, as well as all the performance instruments. And on our side, we have an associate's in studio recording and music business, and then all of our certificate artist programs, which were all developed basically for the same reasons that Jasmine is mentioning. And we're probably going to talk a little bit more about that, all of us today, too. They were built to cater to the constantly changing needs of the independent artist world. So there's a huge demand for that. Independent artists is one of our most popular programs at the school and translates really well online, thankfully. So super glad to be here with all these awesome pros, and yeah, looking forward to talking to you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lacey. Okay, I'm going to go right to Robert Lunte. He does two things, both of which are an exact fit for our conversation today. So first and foremost, I found Robert. I actually worked with him. He's helped me quite a bit from a vocal standpoint, amazing vocal coach, and but much more than that. So he owns the Vocalist studio. He also is the founder and CEO of Course Creek. So he's no stranger to developing online courses. So Robert, if you want to say hello and give a little bit about you, that would be wonderful.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. Congratulations, Rachel. And those of you that are hurricanes, you may not know this, but I'm also a graduate of the Frost School of Music. I don't know if you knew that at Jasmine.
I did. I'm giving you the canes.
So I'm Robert Alente. I'm the founder of the Vocalist studio. I spent 25 years writing books and developing online courses that help voice coaches and singers learn how to train to build their motor skills and their endurance to become better singers. So it's sort of like a P90X, a workout routine that helps you sing better. And that's been somewhat of a success through the years. As I said, big part of that was building video-oriented, self-paced, asynchronous online courses. So a couple years ago, I launched Course Creek, which is an agency that helps authors, coaches, companies, anybody with a good idea, learn how to build online courses so that we can monetize your expertise.
Love it. Thank you so much, Robert. Okay. Mike McCready. want to introduce him. So I am a customer of Mike's. He is that's first and foremost. That's actually how I found him. As a musician, it's an age where we have to find multiple ways to monetize our music. Another webinar we'll be holding, I'm sure. And one of those ways is finding credible opportunities for sync. Primarily, it's what I look for in my music. So I found Music Xray across like a sea of online platforms. And I found it to be real. I mean, that's what I'm kind of all about. So I reached out to Mike. He runs a podcast. He's very much about educating musicians as well, and runs a group on LinkedIn. It's very active. So yes, I've asked him to be on again. This is Mike McCready, CEO for Music Xray. So if you want to say hello and give a little bit more, that would be wonderful.
I've been in the music industry for a long time. My first big job in the music industry was in Barcelona, Spain. I was the marketing director at the Olympic venues there, the Olympic Arena, the Olympic Stadium. And my job was to help bring in the major concerts that were touring Europe and sometimes skipping over Barcelona. So that was probably my first big job. Built a big Rolodex doing that. And simultaneously, as a musician, I was signed to a label over there. So I have experience in signing really crappy label contracts. In the early 2000s is when I crossed over to the dark side of music technology and became a pioneer for a technology that was called hit song science. We were using computers and music analysis software to analyze the underlying mathematical patterns in music and trying to help music labels, record companies at that time, predict which songs were going to be successful in the market, hit songs or songs that were going to go into advertisements and were going to need to kind of cut through the clutter. We did that for a number of years, and then I left that company, which I had co-founded. It eventually went on to be acquired, and started Music Xray, which is the company I run now. We also use music analysis software to match songs that you might have to reference tracks, songs that music supervisors upload into their accounts on Music Xray. It's a two-sided marketplace. On one side, we have over 500,000 musicians, bands, songwriters, and performers. And on the other side, about 1,200 music industry professionals who are all vetted by us. We know who they are, their opportunities are real. And we act as kind of a matchmaker to ensure that the right songs get to the right industry ears. And hopefully, eventually that results in a contract of some sort.
Yes, it's a wonderful service. That's all I can say about it. And he has a breadth of knowledge. So I'm in multiple areas, as I mentioned. So I think he's a perfect fit for the panel. So we started a little bit late because I always give people a little bit of gratis to walk in the door, so to speak. So I want to get right into it. So this topic is about online music education. And the first question I'm just going to ask around the panel, because there's been a lot of changes in online music education. I'm sure you all have been aware of, both from the panelists to the musicians that are attending today. So I just want to get a sense of, in your respective companies, what are you, in organizations and universities, what are you seeing is the current state of online music education? Where do you think it's going? And what are some platforms or programs that you think would be important for some of the attendees to take a look at, and why? So I'm going to go right around. I'm going to start with Rachel. Again, I'm just going around clockwise, I guess, on my screen.
Thank you. You may have to repeat some of the questions again, but I'll just start out with, we've been seeing more and more music industry professionals coming back to get a graduate level degree. They either have a bachelor's degree in music, or maybe they got a degree in something more general like business or communications, and they want to learn more about the industry. Or they did get an undergraduate degree in music industry related field, and they just want to do the next step. So we're seeing a lot of that because we offer a very well-rounded education to the students. So learning things about really jumping into music contracts and agreements, tour and live entertainment management, copyright law, publishing, licensing, all of those things to really give that well-rounded experience. And one thing we're noticing, we offer asynchronous classes. So the working professionals out there can log in at any time to do their coursework. They don't have to be there at a certain hour of a certain day. It's on their own time. So it really helps the working professionals out there be able to expand their education and at the same time keep their jobs and keep working. So we're finding more and more of that. And especially with COVID, we've seen a lot of students now are more interested in going online instead of coming to campus because they can have that flexibility and be virtual while they pursue a degree. You might have to repeat the questions, like I said. Or
that's fine. I just no, from a Frost perspective, that makes sense. I was just wondering, like, anything specifically that you're seeing in your online programs where maybe there's more demand by students, where because of those insights, you're going to broaden those course topics, or anything around specificity for current students?
Yeah, I mean, our faculty are always revising and updating the content in their courses to make sure they're keeping up with what's going on real time in the industry. So yeah, especially with COVID going on, a lot of our live entertainment courses are now shifting to discuss more how to adapt with COVID and how to adjust things. And so a lot of that is happening in our courses, in the content that the students receive, but they also get weekly live chats with our faculty and their peers, so they can sit there and have these discussions about what's going on and what's going to happen in the future. And so we're doing more of that in editing our courses and our content, and then looking at offering more non-credit classes to those who may not want to get a credential or a degree. And in those classes, having more of a broad side of music and more creative type classes, production, media creation, and not necessarily completely music industry.
Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to continue. Alex, anything from your perspective at either at the law firm or with some of your clients that you might want to talk about?
Yeah. So we handle more of the back end with helping to develop these courses and make sure that they have all the materials that they need to protect themselves when they're doing whatever it is that they do in these courses. But definitely have seen an increase in some of these online courses due to COVID. And I think that's a great thing because it provides more flexibility, and it also can allow you to have a broader reach. Instead of just having like a localized in-person course, you could now touch people nationally and have people signing up. So it's definitely interesting seeing that move from in-person to online, especially from a legal perspective, because once you get to the online sector, there are certain things that you need, like you need terms of service or privacy policy. You need to think about what employees do I have and what rights are involved, which you could also do in person, but now also online. Can other people interact with each other and what's needed? So definitely have seen an increase, whether you're just teaching because you have been a musician yourself and you just now like to teach and want to make yourself available to people, or whether you're a production house and you want to just teach more on the tech side. We've represented a lot of different people in that aspect, and for sure have seen an increase.
Alex, question on that. Are there any specific standards for the development, or is it more a customized experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. A lot of things can be customized, like what we put in the contracts, but there are some basic things that you want to make sure that you do have and that you're thinking about. So when people go to your website, they know how to conduct themselves. So like one of the main things you see on almost every single website you go to is a terms of use or terms of service. And that binds people on your website with what they can expect or how they're expected to act on the website. You normally see like a privacy policy, and that details what information might be collected and how you'll be using it. Sometimes you'll see a copyright policy or an intellectual property policy. Sometimes you won't. That one's more personalized depending on what you're actually doing, or if you're allowing people to comment if there's a risk of infringement. But there are some standard things like that terms of service and privacy policy that you see time and time again on different websites that you for sure should have, or at least discuss with an attorney to make sure that you're squared away. And then how broad or how specific that is will depend on exactly what it is that you're doing.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's really important for people just to understand whether they're developing a course or if they're a student, because one thing that we had mentioned leading up to this was, just the importance of understanding what's credible out there in this kind of wild west of online education. So I think those are some of the ways that you can as a student, right, you can check in. So I think that's important. I'm going to move to Lacey, talk about this definitely about what's in demand at MI, kind of what's going on, popular classes, what you see.
Oh, well, I mean, as we're an accredited college, so we're seeing a lot of the same, types of things like what Rachel mentioned, a lot of people examining their priorities in life. I guess COVID, that's the one, silver lining of all that. It kind of hustled a lot of people to go, well, why wait on, chasing after this dream that I've had all this time. I have a lot of students that come in telling me that, especially for the artist programs. They say, well, all of this mortality in my face makes me realize I should go after my singer-songwriter dreams. And they come to us. I mean, obviously for all programs, it's a little different what people want, but I hear it most from the artists, like the people that are really just wanting to pursue their passion. That makes me very glad that we were able to offer that to people. So as far as the status of online education, the first word that comes to my mind, and I'm speaking not just from a college administrator perspective, but also as an instructor and an electronic musician myself, the word that comes to mind is saturated. Everybody and their grandma has built a Udemy or an Ask Video or like all these different kinds of courses that people build, and it's kind of up to the consumer, if you will, the student, to have to kind of vet those people and look at their credit lists and just make that educated decision about whether they want to trust that person with their time and money. So from a college perspective, that's one thing I'm glad that we don't have to worry too much about, because we have a long-standing reputation here. Our big challenge, I think, was maintaining what made MI attractive to people without actually having them come into crazy Hollywood. And that's a thing, like you mentioned earlier, Jasmine. Well, I guess we've all kind of mentioned it a little bit. The access now is wonderful. We have international students coming in more and more. We already had a ton, but a lot of them are coming here to do their Hollywood experience. And we're seeing more online students accessing us, not just for the full programs, but also for we have an MI Select where you can take a couple of non-credit options, kind of like Rachel was mentioning there, just adding more possibilities for people to dip their toes in rather than jumping into a whole program. So that's been working great. And because we offer both the synchronous and asynchronous ability to attend class, you can attend class live each week. We have it scheduled like a normal class on campus, but for those working pros and people with jobs and then crazy time zone differences, they have that asynchronous option to get their work done, and they can still access the instructor. So that's been really important, is instructor access online and not just kind of going back and watching videos and such, which is great. I learn like that. Not everyone can. So it's been interesting to see what types of people are coming in, like the caliber of student you get that just wants to come party in Hollywood versus the student who's very serious and is doing the online program from wherever and is executing those same learning outcomes.
Okay,
So,
got it. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to move on because I know I'm looking at the time, and I do have a follow-up summary and question for all of you that's short, but I want to move to Robert because he's very involved with this.
Well, we're seeing that coaches and teachers are burning out. Only selling your time gets tiring. It's not sustainable and it's not scalable. So coaches are looking, not only music coaches and music teachers, but coaches of all walks of life are looking for a way to take their expertise and, yeah, sure, monetize it, but get scalability out of it. Be able to capture your expertise on video, but it could also be with authoring tools like Articulate or animation or what have you, but in some form or fashion, capturing your expertise so that you're available 24/7. And not only that, but available to 3.45 billion English speakers around the world. And if you have the passion, the guts, and the work ethic to get in front of a camera and start building and start making the content, you can radically change your life. Okay, so doing online courses. Now, from a student perspective, they're getting a great exposure to all kinds of new talent and people that they can choose from. I do agree with Lacey in the sense that there are maybe some courses out there certainly that are dubious, but if it's built properly with the right conversion copy and the right branding and the right expertise, then really the courses can be outstanding. And for at Udemy, $9. I mean, if you go to Udemy and purchase one of my courses at Udemy, you're going to get 24 hours of online training with an ebook for like $9 to $20.
Yeah.
Okay, and and it's good stuff. So I think that online courses and producing online courses really are the future for both the students and the coaches. In terms of trends going into the new year for 2022, online courses, we're seeing more and more movement towards blended learning. So you're engaging or consuming a video, then at some point you sort of stop and then check in with the instructor, like Lacey was describing in the solopreneur world as well. So we call that blended learning. That's very popular. Also peer reviews, where you will go into like a forum and share your content with other people that took the course and get involved with the other students. And then last but not least, micro-learning. Micro-learning is where after you take the module or the course technology or course creator will send out like a bot or a chat or a text or something that sort of tests you on the content that you've consumed. So those are 3 cool things that are on the cutting edge that are leading the charge for online courses. But we do it all day long, and it's really fantastic to help people get scalability in their lives. People that are accustomed to just selling their time, it's really nice to give them a different option.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, that talks a lot to. I was going to just follow up with a question for everybody on price. Pricing can be all over the place, and I've been developing online courses in branding and marketing for so long, and they've gone down, to your point, Robert, right? So they started at higher ticketed prices and now they're lower because of saturation. But I think at the end of the day, it is a lot about the credibility behind who's teaching. And I think that for everybody who's on, taking a look at these people and taking a look at their programs and understanding where the credibility is very, very important to make those decisions. Okay, so I'm going to lead to Mike on that question.
I think the music industry is a highly aspirational business, especially from the perspective of artists, but also on the industry side, with people who want to work in the industry. And unlike a lot of other professions where, you can't be a lawyer unless you have a law degree and have passed the bar, you can't be a doctor or a surgeon unless you have the credentials. But in the music industry, it's not like that. And I think when artists go out there looking for someone to mentor them or formally teach them, and as Lacey was saying, you do really have to beware. Especially if someone's trying to teach you something, teach you a skill, that's one thing. You can usually find references or other people who've learned from them to give you some feedback on that. But a lot of times you'll have people who will say, hey, I'll make you a star, or I'll get your music to so-and-so if you pay me so-and-so, so much money up front. And a lot of those are just outright scams. And it's hard to get your money back from those people. It's hard sometimes to figure out who those people are, because people who've been taken by them might not be writing about that online because they're embarrassed about it themselves. So I think that's the main thing. Now that there are so many accredited programs, whether it's from U of M or Berklee College of Music, there are a lot of really reputable programs around the country, and I think that's where you want to start.
Yeah, I love to talk, Mike, about credibility in all aspects of the music industry. as a musician, I see it at all levels every day. And so, this education piece, when it's a DIY environment and we're trying to better ourselves, from hence the title musicianship to music business, it's smart to research who it is who's going to be, like you mentioned, your mentor or your host or whatever you want to call it. So thank you very much. So I'm going to lead to the next piece, which is musicianship development. A lot out there. And I think I was having a conversation with Lacey that I said, I think it's really important that you spend at least an hour a day as a musician bettering yourself from a musicianship standpoint. So how do you all see it being delivered, absorbed, and performed online? Has this changed? Are you seeing that people are developing as musicians faster, slower, collaboration? Where might you point people that are interested in bettering themselves as musicians and collaborating with other musicians? I think that's a very important thing that's going on right now. So I'd love to hear from the panelists, your experience or any advice that you have for the attendees on that. Rachel, I'll just go back around the room.
I'm trying to think, because we don't really focus too much on that quite yet in our program in online. We are looking more into that. We actually have a certificate called Artist Development, where it is focusing on just kind of bettering yourself as a musician, the psychology behind performing, what goes into that. So we do offer some classes like that for individuals if they're looking to better their musicianship. But otherwise, I think there are a lot of resources out there, like credible ones. And we mentioned Berklee College of Music that has all sorts of non-credit options for, increasing musicianship. But I think other panelists probably have some better ideas too.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Alex, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we see when we see people coming in, of course, if they're looking for a music lawyer, they want assistance, which I think is fantastic. Like, you should have someone on your team who, this is their job every day. But then also we love encouraging people to educate themselves and to make sure that they have this knowledge. You just really want to be careful about not thinking that the internet is just so broad and vast. There's so much on there. Be careful about what you read on the internet and what you're seeing and what you decide to believe and then move forward with just assuming that's how the industry works. Because I'm sure everyone can agree, we've all talked to people who think they know what they're talking about and then they're slightly off. So would be really careful about that. But there are so many different places that you can go to get different information, from various online courses, just to different trade magazines and blogs. Of course, there's the trade magazines like Billboard, Variety that you can look at. All the different online distributors like CD Baby and DistroKid have different blogs, and some of them have some pretty decent information in there that you can read up on. But again, I think this goes back to Mike's point about credibility. Don't believe everything that you read. Have a team who can kind of help you navigate through all of that. But yeah, I'll let some of the other panelists touch more on what they've seen specifically with online courses, but just my two piece about educating yourself.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, those are really good references. Lacey, what do you have for us?
Oh, I can definitely relay some experience on this. So we literally have classes in these artist programs. I mean, obviously our performance side of things, they get drilled hardcore with harmony theory and live performance. And that was a thing that, as far as, practicing your musicianship, having that instructor feedback ready to go, right there, has been integral in people succeeding at that side of things. We have a course here at MI that's open to all students called Live Performance Workshops. And that was a thing where basically students can sign up and basically perform. We have different genres at different times. So people can sign up to do the country live performance workshop, or the metal, or the punk, or the funk. There's a funk LPW. It's just endless. So students were really missing that, flexing that muscle. So when we flipped that to online, we had to get super creative as far as how to emulate that live, getting up there and playing with the band or singing with the band or whatever, what have you. And what we were able to do is kind of make it sort of I'm sure we've all seen these social media posts, people in these grid views, one person playing one instrument, the other person playing another instrument, and it's kind of a collaborative thing. So we sort of set it up like that. And we ended up having some unexpected success with that, because we had students actually doing the live performance. They were playing with backing tracks that our instructors made, depending on what instrument they were going to play in the workshop. And we ended up doing, they get the practice, they get the performance, but they also get content to post about themselves. And they were like, this is amazing. So, I think, but they would also get that live feedback from the instructor, as far as improvements to be made or whatever. So, that being creative with how you interact with the students is super integral there. And we were surprised by how well it worked.
Thank you. Yeah, I like that. I think collaboration, it's, if it's self-serving, as we used to say back in the days of, oh my God, started in internet marketing a million years ago, user-generated content, but I think it's all about that authenticity. And it seems like what you're doing there, Lacey, is you're really letting the students kind of lead that by getting them involved. And I think that's wonderful. Okay, Robert, I'm gonna go to you on this musicianship development.
Gosh, musicianship development. Train, practice. I'm not sure. I'm struggling with finding a sort of a technology spin on that. Although I help singers around the world learn how to sing better through the training with technology. At the end of the day, Jasmine will tell you, if you don't put a mic in your hand and put in the time and chop, then I don't care what kind of technology you got, you're not going to become a better musician. So
100%.
If the question is, how do we become better musicians? I suppose there's some apps and things that can help. Hey, my course can help you, because you can get online from being able to access it. Like you never knew you couldn't get to Rob and tell you about his course, something like that. But still, I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make them drink. You have got to put a microphone in your hand and dedicate 30 to 120 minutes per session, 3 to 6 days a week for 30 to 90 days to get real results as a singer. And I suppose, to get some kind of result as a drummer, a bassist, a guitarist. So I don't know if that's answering your question, Jasmine, but I guess I'm old school when it comes to musicianship.
No, I love your courses, and it's like every day I have it on my calendar to work on belt technique. But I do. But the second piece of that, Robert, is about how do you see it being absorbed? Is online musicianship development education being absorbed any differently than it used to be? Or have you always taught this way online in terms of your sequencing and how you teach? Have you see what I'm saying? Have there been any changes or shifts in the way that students are absorbing content?
Well, yeah, I think so. The online courses is one way. And the other thing is just doing online virtual live lessons, right? So doing lessons on Skype and Zoom, that's a big deal, especially with coaches like myself who are not at institutions and schools. This is how we make a living every single day, is getting on a Loom and doing private lessons. So that's very common, very popular, very interesting to coaches that haven't picked up on that technology yet. So there's been a lot of discussion on social media and an interest for coaches that don't know how to do it, fire up a Zoom to learn how to do it and get it going, especially with the bug. So that's one thing. And I like to share that I noticed as far as one-on-one lessons go, it seems like would have been probably about 2013, 2014-ish. I'll never forget. It seems like the kind of students changed a little bit on a one-on-one. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, it felt like it was a little bit more serious, a little bit more people leading bands, people that are sort of in their 20s and 30s, and then it turned into still some of that, but it seemed like the the willingness to hunker down and go to work and train changed overnight, and people were becoming musicians and training for wanting to be singers for different reasons. I think because they wanted to get a star, as opposed to, like full love for the craft. So I'm just being completely honest with you. I think sort of the disposition of the average student has changed in the last 6 to 7 years, and it's concerning.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Thank you. Mike, want to talk about
a
this
lot
a
of
little bit?
a lot of that phenomena that Robert was talking about, I think, is also due to the phenomenons of like TikTok or YouTube, where musicianship is an incremental process. You cannot be you can be not very good and still sound good to your friends, or be able to edit something together that is going to be funny, or is going to be good enough to get some traction going among an online community. And I think that formal music education is certainly the best way to go. But another way to go about it is to jam with people, and jam with musicians who are better than you, where you can learn something from them. You can do that now on Zoom. There's enough low latency that you can, and you've seen even the cast of Hamilton come together and sing, songs from Hamilton on a Zoom. There are other online platforms like Compose, starts with a K, K-O-M-P-O-Z, I think, that does online collaborations like that, where you can lay down a track, another musician will come in and take your track and build on top of it, and you can keep doing that. And the music industry is a cottage industry. It's small. In 2022, they're projecting somewhere around $65 billion in revenue, and that includes, that's the major labels, the major publishers, and all the smaller businesses around it. And that sounds like a huge number, but when you compare it, Google does more than that every quarter, and that's just one company. And a cottage industry gives you the opportunity to network within it. But it's not like, if you worked at Google, you'd be around your coworkers all day. Because the music industry is a cottage industry, it's a lot of independent businesses and independent professionals. And going to places like this where you can meet them and interact with them, going to conferences, when the virus isn't so virulent anymore, is a really good way where you can meet people and network and find people to collaborate with and jam with. And I think that's a great way to improve your musicianship as well.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, my band used Jam Kazam, which isn't the best. I'm a tech head, so it has to be perfect latency for me, but it's enough to do something. During 2020, I think we produced like 3 songs. We wrote and produced 3 songs. So, it's that age now, right? Where we have to look for online tools. We have to embrace the metaverse, I guess, but we got to embrace kind of what's going on. But I think the overall theme of a lot of what we're talking about is the credibility around this and kind of understanding that. So, okay. So last big question, then I'm going to go to audience Q&A. I already have a few questions to ask. So the music business, which you actually just touched upon, Mike, you talked about, how much it's worth. And I know 65 billion isn't really a big number for an industry at all. But the business itself and online teaching, like what's in demand now in terms of the business standpoint, in terms of new technologies, let's say, new platforms. What do you guys see that's in demand in the business? If you read the B2B music business trade rags, or you're involved with that, what do you see that's going to be moving forward in terms of anything from like revenue models in the music business that might be changing because the record labels are changing because of what we're talking about today, which is online delivery, to definitely something I'm all over, which is what's happening with the venues and live entertainment, and how are the venues going to recap their money that they've lost. So I'd love to just talk about that for a second, because we have musicians that are listening in and watching today. What are you seeing in the music business industry overall, and the delivery of music and education online that you think, moving forward is something that people should be aware of? So Rachel, I'm going to start with you.
I'm probably not too much of an expert in that area. My faculty are much better resources because they work and do live stuff in the industry as well as teaching. So I'm going to pass it on to another person, but thank you.
That's fine. Alex.
Yeah, I'd probably be a bit better discussing kind of more like the legal sides of protecting your business and becoming a business. But to specifically answer your question about kind of like what trends we're seeing or what's in demand, like two big things that have been blowing up now, especially with COVID, are like NFTs. Those are a huge new way of being able to now generate content and collab with other people and just getting something unique out there. So we've done a few different NFT agreements now. Also, the metaverse.
Wait, can you touch? I'm sorry. Can you just touch on that for half of a second? Because because at JSM for artists, we get asked a lot from our clients are generally serious bands, right? So so is it available for anyone, or do you have to be at a certain marker? And can you just talk about that a little bit? Because I know a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about it. So.
Yeah. So you don't really have to be at a certain mark. You just have to know a little bit about kind of like tech and what's going on. Like NFT stands for non-fungible token. Basically, that's a way for people to create something, and it has to do, it's very similar to like blockchain and cryptocurrency. So it has to do a little bit more on the tech side of things. Can't go too much into the nitty gritty about like the legalities behind it. But you see a lot of artists now trying to create something unique online. And I've heard it compared to like collectibles or like trading tokens or something, where you're like, all right, cool. I have this unique trading now. And it's not an actual trading card. It might be an album that an artist has embedded with something special, or it might be like an image or a piece of artwork. So it's just something very unique that people are putting online, but it's something that really anyone can do if you have the knowledge and know-how. It's not just like big name artists are doing it. So NFTs are a lot of fun for sure, because you can be a bit more creative in delivery and what you're giving to your fans. And it's a really good way to interact with people. So that's a huge thing. The other thing is the metaverse is something to be really aware of with like venues, since everything is online. You see people now performing in these online venues or in different like chat type features and functions. So it's very interesting seeing how people have now taken these things that we used to do publicly and put them online. And now like the legal side is trying to catch up and figure out, okay, what are we doing? There are different rights involved now if you're doing like an online concert for fans instead of doing an in-person concert, because now you have video involved and there are certain rights in doing a video or different music rights, and it's still a public performance. So those are two things for sure to be kind of aware of with different trends and where things might be going.
That's wonderful. We will be providing, as I put in the chat, a list of resources links. So I'll be collecting those from panelists afterwards for everybody, specifically related to NFT. Mike, you have something.
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that. NFTs are related to, as she said, the Web3, the metaverse, and the blockchain. And I think the blockchain is going to become more and more important in this space, especially as it starts moving into the publishing side of the business. Right now, when you write the song, I know publishing is very complicated and a lot of people don't fully understand it. And I won't go into all of that, but it's really hard if you are a guitarist and you have put down a really cool lick on that track. Getting a writing credit on that song is probably going to be very difficult. And with the blockchain coming in, you're going to be able to, as a group who put the song together, you might be able to come up with, okay, the guitarist gets 10% of the revenue that this song generates. And with the song going through the blockchain and where that song is performed and where it's licensed, all going through these smart contracts on the blockchain, individual musicians and contributors to a piece of music will be able to automatically get paid very quickly for the contributions that they make. I'm not doing this subject justice, but I think this is going to be something in the future that musicians will want to get their heads around and understand, because it's going to be important to monetizing your work.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's something that we've been talking about with on the other side of my business with fine artists. So it's certainly something that I wanted to bring to the table. I mean, today we don't have the time to go through it, but perhaps we can do another piece on this. A lot of questions and, like I was saying, misconceptions around it as well. So, as it is with any new technology, right? Okay, so Lacey, you have anything to add on this piece?
I mean, if I were to add anything, it would be, yeah, I mean, I'd have a friend, a sound designer, you know, he's a composer and a sound designer for games and film. This man is making thousands of dollars a week, awesome, teaming up with killer digital artists and doing these just incredible pieces of NFT artwork. It's like he had no idea it was going to succeed, but yeah, it's definitely something to look into. Beyond that, as far as performance, I've also seen you know, friends and colleagues of mine, you know, DJs that have been touring the world, you know, 6 out of 12 months minimum every year, get locked down with COVID and are now doing live stream and making just as much, if not more money, live streaming. So, you know, that's a quick start. You can just hop right on Twitch and sign up and hit a few milestones and off you go, you know, and there's plenty of other platforms out there where you can do that. So I'm actually developing a course right now based on my experience learning about that the last couple of years for the MI students, because they keep asking me, how do I live stream? So, I mean, it moves quickly, but yeah, NFTs, blockchain, and, you know, coin, all that different stuff. I have barely a clue, but there's definitely a lot of potential for good research there.
Thank you so much. Robert, you have anything to add?
Yeah, so Jasmine, what again is this question? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Just this is thrown around the room. Anything that you're seeing that's going to, for musicians to take advantage of in terms of the business side of music, some things that are happening because of the change, you know, with venues and new currencies and different, just anything that you're seeing that musicians are able to take advantage of, venues are able to take advantage of. There's a lot of people I know that are attending this today that are in that space. So I wanted to have that question on here to help them.
Yeah, from a musician perspective, honestly, I don't think I'm close enough to really know. But I would have some things to say in regards to coaches and people that are, you know, the coaches and the content creators, which would again would be to get involved with live streaming, online courses, virtual lessons. That's my perspective on that.
Yeah, that's great. And there's definitely a mix, and certainly a lot of musicians go from musician to music teacher. So. Or course creator. So that's very good sage advice for them. Okay, so I'm gonna move into Q&A. I have here 4 questions. Okay, so Cam, I can't say your last name, but so Cam, first of all, thank you so much for attending. A, B, thank you for having the guts to ask a question. So Cam says, thank you for the seminar, you're welcome. I have a question with regards to education on IP and music development. Is a lawyer the only person that can educate you on the topic of IP and how to protect your artistic assets? I'm a hobby guitarist, singer, songwriter, and sound engineer. I've accumulated 30 years of IP assets, such as written and self-produced content. Who should spell out the IP contract at any level with over 300 songs created and now would like to monetize? Well, that's exciting, Cam. I'll tell you that much. I'm going to throw that to Alex to tackle that for a second.
Yeah, so that's great, Cam, that you're at this place in your career where you have like 300 plus songs. That's amazing. But that's a great question. So a lawyer is not the only person. Personally, as a lawyer, I might be a bit biased. I think we're pretty great, but there are other people who are also knowledgeable. The main reason I would recommend working with a lawyer is because there are a lot of nuances in the industry when you start getting into copyrights and other intellectual property rights. So the worst thing that you could probably do here is, let's say that you just decide, nope, I have enough education and knowledge, which great if you do, but I'm going to go ahead and do this myself, going to start registering things. And then let's say you did something incorrectly, and now you have someone else coming at you for copyright infringement. And there are a lot of fees involved with copyright infringement. We don't want you to end up in court. We don't want you to have to take your music down. So to really protect yourself up front and make sure that you're doing things the correct way and that there's no doubt really in your mind about if you even have the rights to post these online, that'd be one of the reasons why I would recommend working with a music attorney. And some of the rights involved that you might think of when you're talking about posting your music in general online, or even if it's like throughout a course, if you're doing online education, is really just the rights and like the music itself. Like, do you own all of the copyrights? Because there are multiple copyrights in a piece of music. Or are you using someone else's copyrighted music? Is it in the public domain? Do you have a license for it? Who was involved? What are the royalty splits? There are different avenues to get royalties. Like, are you registered with all of the proper organizations? Do you have contracts in place if you had a co-writer or something? So there are a lot of nitty-gritty details that can come into play when trying to organize a catalog and monetize on it. So if you are comfortable moving forward with it, great. You don't have to work with an attorney, but I would definitely recommend it to make sure that you are fully protected and not getting yourself into trouble later down the line.
Yes. So, Alex, that's a great answer. And so as somebody that's in branding, when I start working with bands, artists, I always say the same thing, or any type of artist. I'm always like, okay, you're building a brand. And so we are monetizing it. And so you need a lawyer on your side, and that lawyer can be a lawyer that's based here in New York, depending on where you are. You want to look at somebody that has experience in your area. So thank you so much, Alex, for answering that. Okay, so Stephen Tate, question. Thank you for attending. Thank you for asking questions. He has 2 questions. He teaches piano and voice at Guitar Center. Very cool. And looking to expand to online courses like Robert. What should my next steps be? This question is for you, Robert.
And did you say his name was Cam?
No, this is Stephen.
Oh, Stephen. Hi, Stephen, and good to meet you. Well, I totally encourage you to go for it. It is worth every ounce of energy and sweat equity you can put into it once you get it done. It's going to be a lot of work, but when it's done, go for it. Advice would be to start with a storyboard. You need to get your ideas and your training ideas and concepts, let's call it a method, and write it out in an organized sequential manner that consists of modules and lessons. So sort of boring, it's instructional design stuff, but somehow you have to get your lessons written out into a storyboard. If you'd like, to be more than happy to share my template with you. So when you see the template, it's sort of self-explanatory. So you want to get your ideas organized and sorted out, okay? And then the next thing you want to do is get some great low budget do-it-yourself video gear, okay? Again, something that I'm not going to take up time on this event to go into details on that, but I'd be happy to send you some information on that, on some good gear to get, all right? Then practice on camera and start shooting. Start doing lessons on camera. So and it's quite a big process. There's a lot to talk about. We don't have all the time, but I guess my short answer would be start by making a storyboard, get some gear, and begin practicing on camera work.
Okay, yes, thank you so much, Robert. And yes, I would also say to check out Robert's courses so you can get an understanding of what he does. So all their contact information, this recording and links to resources will all be emailed to all registrants. So all of that information will be sent to you if you have any questions after the webinar. Okay, so we have one last question, and then I want to have some closing remarks before we end our webinar. So Stephen also asked a question, and this question is a big question, probably will be answered more in our next webinar. But if anybody has some quick advice on this, he asked, how can he get into NFTs as a musician? So Alex, because you're involved with that, maybe you want to tackle it first.
I can briefly touch that. So there are a lot of different platforms where you can go to. I honestly can't speak on which platforms are better than others, but lots of different platforms you could probably find in a quick Google search. Some that quickly come to mind, and again, I'm not like advocating for these platforms, But the first thing you need a platform in general where you can mint your NFT, and like to mint it is to create it. So there's like Atomic Hub, Engine, Forge, Rarible, OpenSea. So there are a lot of them. You could probably just look some up. And then you also need a wallet, because again, it's dealing in cryptocurrency. So you need some type of crypto wallet that you can use, whether that's MetaMask, Coinbase, Exodus, my Ether wallet. So there are a lot of different platforms. The main thing is just making sure that you do some research on the different types of platforms and what it is that they actually offer, what the terms of service are. And there's that term again, terms of service, but like what the terms of service are, what you're expected when you use that. But find yourself a platform where you can mint your NFT, and then make sure that you have a wallet that you can connect to your platform. And that's a good starting point, at least, where you can do some research about what different platforms are available for you.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add? No? Okay. So some closing remarks. First, again, I want to thank everybody for attending. And more importantly, or equally as important as the panelists. I know everybody's time is so critical these days that, it's, I said I wanted to do something on online music education. I was like, oh my God, I think I just shot myself in the foot because it's such a huge topic. But I feel that we got a lot of good information, and I'm taking myself out of being a host and being a musician right now. And hopefully all of you did as well. Anybody that attended, I would love to hear from you what you thought. And you're going to get all this information to follow up on. I'm very much an action-oriented teacher. So hopefully you're going to follow up on it and scale your careers forward. But I want to just go around the room and have everybody have a closing remark. Maybe if you want to give anybody your contact info, I think in the chat, everybody's put in their contact info. But just going around the room, closing remarks on online music education. Rachel?
All right. Yeah, thank you for having me here today. I left the website that we have for Frost Online, and just keep going back to that because we're always expanding our degree options, our course options, non-credit, and we do offer scholarships as well. And if you work in the industry, you can get up to 40% off the degree, because I do know University of Miami can be expensive. So we try to help we try to help out as much as we can with that. But just feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if you're interested in some topic, I can let you know if we're working on developing that or what we're planning for the future. Thank you.
Wonderful. Alex?
Yeah, so thank you everyone so much for attending. I love that there's this upward trend with online music education, and there are so many different options available now. If you're interested in starting your own course and you don't really know where to start, or you're unsure of really how to get your house in order and what rights might be involved, we can help out with that. So feel free to just reach out to us. I'm happy to have that conversation. I left my email in the chat earlier, so you guys should have it.
Thank you, Alex, very much. Lacey?
Like everyone's saying, thanks so much for including me. And it was great to hear from all these panelists, like such a diverse crew. I mean, as far as closing remarks, I'm not going to talk about the school too much. I dropped our online program menu into the chat if anyone's interested. But, for anyone watching, just, take time to figure out what your exact, what your real goals are before you start diving into this, whether you're trying to be a teacher or a student. Figure out what it is, like what's your end game, and then go from there. And yeah, good luck everyone, and stay safe.
Thank you, Lacey. Robert?
Well, I would encourage musicians out there, and I'm speaking from personal experience. Just remember that being a musician is a magical, beautiful thing. Absolutely, for sure. But remember, it's not the only thing you can do. I encourage you to continue to do that, but also look for other ways to get scalability in your life and in your business. And one of the best ways to get scalability as a musician or a coach is through the internet, which would be online courses. And if anybody's interested in getting scalability and time freedom, feel free to contact me. I'm at Course Creek. Course has an online, Course Creek as in a little river, coursecreek.com. Contact me, and I'll share my story with you and help you get on your feet and find a way to continue to be a musician, but eat something other than cup of noodles.
It's all about nutrition. Thank you, Robert. Very eloquent. I like what you said. I couldn't agree more. Mike.
I think in closing, I'll just say, I think one of the best ways to continue to find your way in the music business is to network with other people in the industry, continue to come to things like this. I'm involved in an organization called Music Industry City. It's at musicindustrycity.com, which is an online community of artists and professionals that are just there to network and educate each other. And like that, there are other things like Jasmine mentioned. I run a group on LinkedIn, so you can feel free to contact me there and join that. But it's just a place where musicians exchange information and ideas and experiences, and it's one of the best ways to learn, short of a accredited program.
Thank you, Mike. I second that in taking advantage of people that are out there and networking. I want to give my little closing remarks. I am involved not only in running Jasmine Sandler Media, but JSM for Artists. I run Warrior Women in Business, which is helping female artists develop and grow on several boards. And I think it's just important to, as you're taking business and music seriously, is to what all these folks were talking about. Really look for credible people, organizations, and platforms to connect with, to learn from and collaborate with. And being open-minded, and I like that Robert was talking about hard work and jumping in. It's really what it takes, and we're here to really help you. So you can expect more webinars from JSM for Artists, and I love having these folks on. You know, this is the second time Alex has been on, and it's all about developing relationships. As Mike mentioned, I like that you talked about this cottage industry, because the more that we can actually authentically help each other, the more that we can help the industry grow. And I think weeding out bad people, as someone mentioned about getting ripped off, you know, I kind of stand for that in a very big way. So again, thanks everybody for being on. If you have questions that you didn't get to ask, we're going to be sending out a recording. All the panelists' contact information. You can sign up for their newsletter, whatever you want to do, have a conversation with them. So expect to hear from us in the next couple of days. But I wanted to thank everybody for being on. I thought this was a wonderful webinar, and hopefully everyone learned a lot. And as I always say, here's to your music career, but I also say here's to your music business career. So again, signing off from the webinar, JSM for Artists, Jasmine Sandler. Thank you everyone so much.